Today, we will go over the process of the color refill with tips using the correct technique. You will notice that the nails have grown for about a month. Today, we will file down the nails and refill with a different color, red. Since this tutorial is a fill-in with a set that already contains tips, we will not be soaking off the nails. Soaking off will remove the tips entirely. First, you must use the Cachet hand sanitizer before you proceed onto the next step of the application. It is important to sanitize your hands and the client's hands before starting any process involving the Cachet Dipping Powder. After sanitizing the client's hands, start by using the 4X coarse carbide gently above the surface of each nail. This is to file down and remove the existing color powder on the nail, keeping the nail tip intact. Do this with every nail for both hands. After removing most of the existing color layer, continue by using a fine sandbound drill bit gently above the surface of each nail. This is to clean the nail, remove shine, and pushes the cuticle up the nail so that the powder will adhere properly to the surface of the nail bed. Continue this process with every nail for both hands. After removing most of the colored layer and filing down the nails, continue to trim down and shape the nails to the desired length depending on the client's preference. Today, we will be using a clear powder. When working with any colored powder, we will need a layer of clear powder before the application of a colored powder. This is to act like a protective coating to the surface of the natural nail. We will also be using the Cachet No. 2 powder called Scarlet. Before you start the dipping process, make sure you flip the containers like so. It is to loosen up the powder to create a consistency suitable for dipping. Remember not to shake or agitate the jars in any other way. First, apply the prep. Prep, or also known as number 1, contains vitamins and nutrients such as calcium and vitamin E to nourish the nails and promote healthy growth. Apply the prep liquid directly onto the cuticles and the area of the nail. Continue by adding on the base coat or number 2 liquid. The base coat contains nutrients such as calcium as well as vitamin E to protect the nails as well as promoting healthy growth. Apply the number 2 base coat 2/3 of the way up the nail. And then dip once into the clear powder. Make sure that there's enough powder to cover the entire nail. Continue this process for each finger. Afterwards, brush the excess clear powder off the nails. After the clear powder has been applied, we can proceed to adding on the colored powder. Start by applying the number 2 base coat all the way up the nail, making sure not to touch the cuticles directly. Proceed then by dipping the entire nail into the desired colored powder. The second time, apply the number 2 base coat completely up the nail, covering the entire nail, making sure not to touch the cuticles. Dip the finger once more into the colored powder, making sure that there is enough powder to evenly cover the surface of the nail. Repeat this process for each finger. If you do notice that a nail is still wet or semi-glossy, continue to dip into the colored powder until you see a dry and matte finish before moving on. Remember to apply the number 2 base coat all the way up the nail, making sure not to touch the cuticles, and then dipping once into the colored powder. Continue to add the number 2 base coat all the way up the nail. And then completely dipping the nail into the colored powder, finishing this layer. This whole process will contain 2 layers of base coats as well as 2 layers of the colored powder. Remember to take your time and be gentle when applying and dipping into the powder. Brush off completely the nails so that there is no remaining powder on the areas in and around the skin of the cuticles before moving on. This is to avoid clumping when applying the number 3 dry coat. Start by applying the number 3 dry coat. Apply first on the cuticles and then onto the rest of the nail. Make sure not to use an excessive amount of number 3 liquid, just enough to cover and dry the entire nail bed. After the application, wait for approximately 30 seconds to 1 minute before proceeding on to adding the number 2 base coat. Continue by applying the number 2 base coat onto the nail, making sure to cover the entire nail. This is to protect and seal the nail as well as the color overlay. After applying the base coat, file down the nails to the desired shape and size requested by the client, at the same time cleaning underneath the nails as well. After filing down the nails, use a very fine drill bit to smooth out the surface of the nail bed. This is to remove any bumps or ridges on the nail. Remember that when working with a color dipping powder, make sure not to file too much off the surface of the nail. This would cause the nail to become thin and the color to lose its richness and tone. Gently buff to smooth out the surface of the nail. Make sure not to buff too heavily so as not to remove too much of the colored layer. Remember to buff underneath as well as around the edge of the nails. After buffing, continue on to spray alcohol to sanitize and clean the surface of the hands and nails. Wipe off completely with a clean, hot, or dry towel, making sure that the hands are dry and clean afterwards. After cleaning off the hands, apply a layer of dry coat or number 3 liquid onto the cuticles and the entire nail. The number 3 dry coat is used to help the next number 4 top coat liquid dry quicker. This process is required. If the next number 4 coat you add on does not dry, it means that this coat was not applied. Wipe down each finger with a soft tissue to clean up, at the same time removing any excess residue from under the nail. Apply the glossy top coat or number 4 liquid. Make sure that the first coat is applied on quickly so that the brush does not dry out. The second coat can be more detailed, covering the entire nail bed. Make sure to seal the free edge carefully to ensure the longevity of the nail. Using a fan or by air drying, let the nails dry for approximately 2 minutes before moving on. Using the Cachet cuticle oil, which contains vitamins A and E, brush the cuticles of the nails only, and massage upwards towards the finger, not towards the nail. This process is to soften the cuticles and promote growth, as well as providing nutrients to the nails. Remember that with the cuticle oil, always to massage upwards towards the finger and not towards the nail. After finishing up the last step, your client now has a beautiful set of nails using the Cachet Dipping Powder. Using the applied methods, you can achieve the desired look using the color refill with tips. For more information, visit www.cachetdp.com or contact us at 561-358-0026.